Hello and welcome to Flippin' Through, the internet's #1 Mad Magazine news, review, and interview channel. And I'm here today with another review. I don't know. Things are just falling into place. People are responding to emails. It feels pretty great. I'm talking with David DeGrand today, artist and writer for Mad Magazine since all the way back in 2001. This is somebody who has probably the longest tenure of any artist that I've spoken to yet. And if you're sitting there and you're like, 2011? How am I even supposed to contextualize what year that is? Well, I'll tell you, it was a year in which the Green Lantern was relevant. That's about all the information that you should really need to understand what life was like in 2011. And this is the issue with his first work appearing. Jeez. Anyway, it was a great conversation, and it's a super nice guy. My only regret during this whole thing is I was having some terrible technical difficulties. You're gonna not see me the whole time. You're gonna see a picture of me, and for the first part of it, the questions that I ask are actually a voiceover because my microphone wasn't working. So it was a bit of a snafu on my end. So aside from that, it is just a regular interview that I have. I pull up his website and stuff. If you want to support him and his work, and you should, I have links below in the description. He's got books on the shelves right now, and he's also got a pretty cool sounding book coming out with somebody he's done work with before, Kit Lively, you can't check it out yet. It's not out. Anyway, without further ado, I've recorded this for the 5th time, and I'm done. I'm not going to record it again. I hope you enjoy this interview. Toodaloo. I usually start off with having the artist describe what it is that they do.
I do kids book illustration. I do cartoons for Mad. I've done animation design, character design for animated projects. And so I just, whatever people will pay me, whatever weird drawings I have to do for people to give me money is I will do. So I've dipped my toes in a lot of different areas, but Mad Magazine is probably the thing I'm most proud of to be a part of, if I had to choose, because it was a iconic thing from my childhood. It was, super inspiring, like many of us, that you could, draw silly pictures and make fun of adults, and it was somewhat, frowned upon. It was encouraged.
So you've been able to work with a ton of characters that other people created. Characters like Garfield, The Simpsons, Rocko's Modern Life, Adventure Time. What was it like to be able to play around with such iconic characters?
Oh, that was it was kind of the way I think of that is someone just gave me, some new toys to play with, and I took it don't kind of have fun with them and, do what you will, but don't destroy them, don't throw them on the ground and scrape up the paint and don't chip them, I kind of think of it that way. So with SpongeBob, I was like, okay, I can have this really fun character and world to play in, and I can, come up with stories and, add my personal spin on it, while still trying to keep it in the, the acceptable world, that it's known as, it's the tricky thing with doing a lot of, like with Garfield. And with Garfield, I was just an artist for the comic book, and those are written by the great and fellow idiot Scott Nickel. He wrote a lot of those Garfield strips or scripts for Boom Studios, and so that's just kind of how I looked at doing other people's characters, where it's like, if you're letting me play with them, I'm going to be respectful, but still do my own. That's the funny thing about comic books is how, it's a great medium. There's all kinds of things you can do with it, but to introduce a new character, is very, very tough for it to stick. And, because everybody right now, everything is just about popular IPs. And I was lucky that I was able to play with other people's properties, don't isolate that out of you, by the way.
How long have you been working professionally as an artist?
I went as a full-time freelancer, I think about almost 8 years ago, I think. Now, in a yeah, and that was after just like working for. I graduated in college in 2003, and I worked up in about a decade trying to make a name for myself as a cartoonist while working jobs I hated for a while and just to pay the bills. But yeah, I finally was able to get enough balls rolling, about a decade after art school to do it as a full time job, and I'm still kind of, it's hard to believe that I'm able to do it. But yeah, I've had a lot of lucky breaks and met a lot of good people that were really kind to me and gave me chances. And yeah, I owe it all to being lucky and hopefully drawing semi competently. But as artists, we're always the first ones to not be the hardest critics of our work. But working, I think Mad and SpongeBob both kind of hit at the same time, and and so that was about a year or so before I uh, went full time as a freelancer. So and so I think about a year, I would say I was working professionally while working, as a daytime job also. And then when I was able to get some book illustration deals where I could, made about as much as doing my other job, was when I just made the decision that like I'm tired of being miserable. I'll just take a chance and do this art thing. So it wasn't a hard decision to say bye to that job.
Who do you have any influences as an artist?
Oh man, I have tons of them, and I will say like there's about three huge influences that got me to kind of where the headspace of where I am as a creator. First was, of course, Mad Magazine. The first time because I think the first cover I remember seeing was the Batman parody with Alfred E. Newman in the Batman cowl for the '89 Batman movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, for some reason that image just struck me as so funny and left an impression. And then and The Simpsons was a big because and all of these are influenced by Matt anyway. Simpsons, of course, was like a show that looked like it was a kids show, but it was for adults. And so that clicked to me. That's like, oh, this is interesting. And then the Ren and Stimpy show was, I think, made his biggest stamp on me visually as far as the drawing style that I kind of incorporated.
Yeah.
Which was an influence of like old rubber hose animation and Bob Clampett and Chuck Jones all put into this weird stew of like different influences and so yeah, those three things were my biggest influences. And as far as artists go, of course I love Sergio and Al Jaffe, and my favorite Mad artist though is Tom Bunk, who was known for the super gross insane insane visuals.
Yeah.
And, he's the one that left his biggest stamp on me as an artist too. Yeah, I got to meet a few years ago, and he's amazing guy.
Yeah, I can definitely see that connection between like your art and that sort of grotesque.
Yeah, no, I embrace everything weird and gross, and I just think it's funny to revel in it because it makes people. I'm always about, since I'm a weird antisocial weirdo, like anything that can make people go ugh. I'm secretly delight in it because it's just funny to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it seems to be a common theme with mad artists. Is like, how can I disgust people or repel people?
Because most of us are introverts. It's like, how can I get a reaction from somebody while I'm sitting back and I'm not even in the same room with you?
Yeah.
I can do it with my art, in a magazine. So it's like a magic trick we play. On people.
That's really a cool way to look at it, though. Yeah, how can I get you to react to something without having to interact with you?
Yeah, because it's like I would love to be, I'm a big movie buff, and I think it'd be cool to be a movie star, but I'm such an introvert, and I hate, to see myself. So it's a way to like perform for people while not to interact or like put the spotlight on me. It's in a way you are, but you're like I'm. Put the spotlight on my characters that I'm creating. So it's a way of like being a performer or it's almost like it's drawings.
Yeah.
Kind of how the way I looked at comic strips and comic books.
Yeah. The you brought up that Batman cover, and it's I just did an interview 2 days ago with Kyle Bridget, another mad artist.
Oh, cool. I love his stuff.
Yeah, and your guys' work has appeared like alongside one another in shorts and briefs. Um,
Uh-huh.
and that's like that Batman cover is the exact one that he brought up too. It's like that first
Oh,
one
for
that
real.
was really
We must be the
impactful to
same
him.
age.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's like that was the thing with Matt. It was like it took stuff you recognized and then just come subverted it. You just put Alfred E. Newman in a Batman cowl, or put him, in someone else's place, and it's like it's just immediately funny, and you're like, it's like making fun of something without just tearing it apart. Like being demeaning towards it. It's just having fun with it. Again, like I was saying earlier, you're playing with toys that you're not, you want to have fun with, but you don't want to destroy. And I think Matt was good about doing that.
yeah. That's I've brought this up in like a couple of my videos, but Norm Macdonald brought up like impressions on Saturday Night Live. The best
Uh-huh.
impressions, in his opinion, are the ones where you like the character that you're portraying. Even if that
Right.
person
Yeah.
maybe isn't a good person, but actually having some level of respect for them versus like, I hate this
Yeah.
person, I'm going to
Totally.
dump on them.
Yeah, because then it just becomes mean spirited and kind of a one sided, viewpoint. And yeah, you don't want to punch down, ever. Matt was always important. When I was writing stuff for him, they always say, don't, punch up. You don't want to make fun of, people, that are disadvantaged, or that it's, and some could argue that punching. We took a lot of shots at Trump, and it's, you can debate whether that's punching up or down,
Yeah.
but yeah, anyone is fair game as long as you're being, not, you don't want to be mean to someone that doesn't deserve it,
Yeah.
basically.
I think, the Trump stuff, it started to kind of dominate the magazine for a while there. I think up
Yeah,
until the reboot, I think Bill Morrison did a good job of kind of steering it away from that. And
yeah,
I think that like Trump is after a while became sort of a hard person to parody, just because it's like
yeah,
there's nothing new as
no,
far as like a
absolutely.
reader goes. Anyway, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was saying with Trump, it was just like, because I did a lot of cartoons with Kit Lively, my good friend, that we worked together on a lot of stuff, and he wrote a lot of great Trump cartoons. And I mean, we saw it as just like, it's like fish in a barrel. Why not? It may be low hanging fruit, but it's still, it's funny. It was kind of cathartic to, I drew Trump as this, like ugly kind of troll looking person, and it felt good for us to, take out our aggressions on, like just in a silly form as a comic strip,
Yeah,
like the only voice we feel like we have anymore.
yeah,
And so yeah, so we but yeah, the New York staff, they did a ton of, because I think they were in New York, you know with Trump in their same, in the backyard. So I think he was more uh, breathing down their neck, and it was hard to not, do stuff with him all the time.
yeah,
But yeah, no, it was fun to do while it lasted, and again, you're right. It got to be where it's just like I can't make it funny anymore because he's such a clown already. That like what spin do I put on this ridiculousness that he's already, spewing all the time.
yeah.
So yeah, you're totally right. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, he is also one of the odd characters in that like he had such prominence before, so it's
Uh-huh.
I look through some of these older issues of Mad Magazine, and I have
Oh, he shows up a lot. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like they're making fun of his book release or some
Yeah.
deal that went sour, and so
Oh
yeah,
yeah, it's nothing. Yeah, making fun of Trump in Mad Magazine is nothing new at all.
yeah,
That's why when we were doing it for social media content, Mad's Facebook and Instagram, we would get comments from people saying, "When did Mad become this liberal left wing rag that only makes fun of Trump?" And I'm like, you gotta. I mean, he's the biggest, target on the planet right now. What would Mad be if they didn't make fun of Trump? At least some,
yeah,
and
and it's
of
like,
course, you can
well,
always whoever's the president gets made fun of anyway in Mad. So
yeah, and
yeah.
Matt has always been a rag. It's just
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what they're. It's not the New York Times. I mean, it's like, the whole point of it is to poke authority in the ribs and say, and take them down a few notches. But
yeah,
all in good fun. So
yeah.
yeah.
The what is it like? So you mentioned working with Kit, and you also worked
Uh-huh.
with like Matt Lassen.
Uh-huh.
How you're an artist, but you're also a writer yourself. So like, what is that like
Yeah.
working with somebody else's material in that
Oh
way?
yeah. Well, yeah, with Kid, I've worked with him for so long that we've got a pretty good, and I've always been like I've always been more comfortable just as an artist. To me, coming up with funny ideas is a lot of times is like pulling teeth. I'll just sit and all like my brain just seizes up, and I just like to sit and draw. And and Kit's the opposite. He hates drawing, and to him that's the big chore. So we fit good together, and I think his ideas are funny. So but yeah, when I did some of Matt's ideas, I just try to present how I think is going to be the funniest way to present this idea, using my voice. And when I'm writing and drawing my own stuff, it's like you can probably see the difference in between how our brains work.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's I feel like I've um, pretty comfortable with drawing, so it's not too difficult for me to take a funny idea and do my thing with it. So I enjoy working with talented writers a lot. That way I don't have to go through the pain of thinking of funny ideas, because that can be really hard. As much as it's fun when you come up with a good idea, the getting there can be quite a struggle a lot of times.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's, I, I was talking to another artist and they were describing, illustrating some of Dick DeBartolo's work. And
oh man, yeah, I would think I would be pretty intimidated to do that myself.
what was interesting is the amount of stuff, we kind of were able to go through it and sort of like pick out, like all of the stuff that Dick wrote in, and he wrote a very detailed script for him. And so,
Oh yeah,
he was saying it was Dalton Vaughn, and he was saying that, he then had to try to work in his own humor and his own gags into that. And it was
yeah.
like Dick did leave some room. It's not like he just kind of steamrolled him, but
Uh-huh.
I'm interested in that creative dynamic, because saying like artists, even if you
Yeah.
feel like writing is a chore, I mean, like even with those like the things on your Instagram, for example, and maybe I'll bring that up right now.
Uh-huh.
It's like, to me, those are like, there's
Yeah.
writing that goes into that. Yeah, let me see if I can pull up.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's some, and a lot of the stuff I post on Instagram and stuff that I wouldn't, don't think is up to par to submit, anywhere, because they're kind of just half formed, just silly ideas. My approach to drawing is like, if I can get a laugh with just the art alone, then I've done, a big part of the heavy lifting as far as getting a reaction from the reader, and if of course the idea has to be good in the first place, but I try to say, with my own ideas, if the idea isn't super strong, hopefully I can at least sell it with a funny visual, with the artwork.
yeah.
That's just how I approach, all my illustration work. It's like it has to be funny to look at first of all, and then the funny content is just adds to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like your style is like visually. So I'm looking at this like.
Can only imagine what you're coming
I'm looking at this like, I should figure out a quick way to share it with you, but it's the Scary Vampire. I think that's what Scary Vampire Hiss. And it's just like
Oh,
one tooth on the top and bottom.
yeah, yeah, and I just love like characters that just look dumb or just it's just funny to me. So if you don't see a lot of intelligent looking people that I draw, because like again, like it's someone just looks silly or stupid, it just makes me laugh internally. So that's why like my sketchbooks are just full of dumb, dopey looking
Yeah.
idiots. Like yeah, that's why I was perfect for Matt, I guess. A lot of I was turning everybody into an idiot was their thing.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, you do it really well. I love the
Thank you.
characters. Well, and that's like sometimes, looking through Mad, especially like the older ones, they almost had like that house style of Mad Magazine, where like artists sort of like really drew a lot like one another. I mean, I shouldn't
Yeah,
say that blanket, because there obviously were people like, I mean, Kurtzman and, you know,
Davis.
yeah,
Yeah,
Davis, like that was just them, but it was,
sure. Yeah, and I think Al Jaffe has a very distinct style, and
yeah,
yeah, it's like in this. yeah, it's hard to pinpoint, but I know what you mean. Like definitely know it's Mad Magazine, but even it's distinct from each other.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah. Well,
So
I think that
yeah.
Al Jaffe, I did a video on that. It was really weird because when he first started drawing, I looked at like the first work that he submitted, and he did not, it was not his style at
Oh
all.
yeah.
It was, I don't know whose style it
That'd be
was.
interesting.
It was pretty cool though to see that transformation into himself. And
Yeah, I bet that is interesting. Yeah, because I'm only just familiar with basically his stuff where you definitely know it's Al Jaffe, like that cartoony painterly thing he does, and in the fold-ins.
yeah.
Yeah, his stuff is again. He was a big influence on making the artwork just look funny first, and then to support the funny idea. Because I just look at his art and just immediately laugh,
Yeah.
before I even know what the gag is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Al Jaffe's one of those that does that really well. Yeah.
Like with your art, it being like very distinct. Were there artists that you like? We talked about. You mentioned artists that influenced you, but like, I feel like a lot of times artists, when they are getting started, sort of like copy more. Was there an artist that you like when you look back, you're like, oh, I was doing, so and so at that
Oh,
time.
sure. Yeah. Well, I started off when I was drawing, and like when I was like 8 or 9 years old, I was copying Garfield comics, Jim Davis's
Yeah.
style, a lot of kids to learn how to draw, you just copy, the stuff that you like. And so yeah, I was copying that for a while. And so the Jim Davis, the big eyes, which I still do, that's just ingrained in my style. And then like I mentioned, when the second I saw the first episode of the Ren and Stimpy show, it was like getting hit in the face with a sledgehammer, like it was just gross and funny and cartoony, and it just like spoke to me. And so I immediately just started trying to draw. Of course, it's pretty different from Jim Davis, even though it's still funny looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll always Ren and Stimpy has been my biggest visual influence, as far as the way I draw now. And then when I discovered Crumb's work, I discovered R. Crumb later, when the documentary came out.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I lived in a small town in Texas. I didn't have access to underground comics from the '60s very readily available to me, especially before internet. And so when I saw the Crumb documentary, I was like, well, who is this guy? This stuff is amazing. And it had a crosshatch like he did, failing miserably. I abandoned that pretty quickly. And but his reverence for like old vintage style comics, I think kind of influences my work still to this day. Like the Rubber Hose cartoons, like Fleischer Brothers, and early turn of the century comic strips. Kind of influences. I don't think my stuff looks like Crumb, but that reverence for comics of the past, I try to incorporate a little bit, because those are still visually amazing to me.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I feel like cartoonists and illustrators, their work kind of has more longevity than, comic book art, which I love comic books, but, it's like you see those stages of comic book art, like 80s, 90s, 2000s.
Yeah.
It's like very demarcated. And so, like a lot of the old comic strips visually withstood the test of time.
It's pretty timeless. I mean, Mickey Mouse still, he's been updated, but he still, for the most part, has the same basic look. Yeah, just like I said, I love the Fleischer cartoon style. Like the rubber hose arms and the the little beady black eyes, and then you can still play with those visual aspects and have fun with them. Without it looking dated.
Yeah.
I think it's some kind of like a magic trick the way they developed. A lot of that I think was trying to create economical cartoons that could do things easily. So they had to simplify a lot of their designs, and that works as far as transferring that look to what I do, or what a lot of artists do. It remains like a timeless kind of look. So yeah, I agree with you. It didn't come across dated very much.
Yeah. Well, and
unless you have jazz music and black and white, film stock to it.
yeah. Well, and what you were saying about like simplifying your character design, because I mean, those guys, a lot of them, they were producing work for daily strips. It's like,
yeah,
it's kind of unreal the amount of work that they had to pump out.
Yeah. and that led to a lot of really great innovations in visual, I think, language. Like with Nancy, the Ernie Bushmiller Nancy comic is a great use of economy of line, and that's of course the mid-century modern style, which has been done to death, which I still like. But I think Ren and Stimpy kind of brought that back into the forefront also.
Yeah.
Like that simplified, cool angular UPA inspired, look it's it's real simple and kind of abstract, and it's just cool. It's cool to this day.
Yeah. What is that? The you mentioned the UPA style. What is that?
Yeah, that's like the UPA studio, the cartoon animation studio from the 50s that did like Gerald McBoing Boing was a cartoon they did.
Yeah.
It was based on a Dr. Seuss. You instantly know it when you see it, but like it was real simple, real like the lines are real bold. A lot of times they would just use abstract shapes, and to get across the visuals, and it left a huge impression on a generation of artists.
Yeah.
To this day still. That's just because again, when you're trying to just get an idea across in the quickest way possible, you want to simplify so it makes an impact, and they were really good at that. And that vocabulary and use by a lot of people, including myself.
Yeah.
And it's fun to look at.
Yeah. This is going way back to something you said. I was very happy when you said that you didn't discover Robert Crumb until late in life. Because, like sometimes these conversations are like, I was reading about, Harvey Kurtzman and Robert Crumb when I was 5 years old. It's like I was I was not in that mindset of really caring about who did things. I could identify certain artists' style, like Don Martin, right? Because it was just him doing his thing. And it was like introduced as a Don Martin thing. But like people like Al Jaffe, if his art was, drawing something written by somebody else, I wouldn't be able to pick that out. And I wasn't all that interested. I was just interested in that storytelling portion of it.
Yeah. See, so I was always kind of like just immediately drawn to the visual art first. That was just because I'm just a visually oriented person. Sorry if the summer insects are being too loud.
No, it adds a very nice ambiance.
Yeah, you get a nice Texas ambience out here. This is what we do. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, like I was always, saying like, I didn't even Harvey Kurtzman's art I wasn't familiar with until I was maybe 12 or 13 when I discovered his Hey Look comics. The little simple comic strips, that are that he did. I can't remember where they were published at, but yeah, that was a big influence. And I think I Ren and Stimpy too. That may have been how I connected those dots. So yeah, a lot of the stuff I didn't come across until I was way older. I was still discovering old artists that I wish I'd known about decades ago.
Yeah. Well, and it's like it is. I enjoy. I think discovering them now, because it's like a new surprise. It's like a gift. It's like learning about some of these artists and then seeing how they influenced artists for like generations.
Yeah. And a lot of them are unsung heroes. Like influenced the whole different looks. Like Charles Addams gets a lot of credit, deservedly so, for influencing a lot of the New Yorker style. But there's tons. But that you would know when they get credit, discover people like that. Just doing research, especially with the internet. Finding old artists that have been kind of lost to history. But were influential.
You can really go down a rabbit hole thanks to the internet.
Yeah.
But
which I'd rather go down that rabbit hole than some crazy conspiracy theories or something.
Yeah, there's always a time and a place for conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
and
not here. Not a Mad Magazine interview.
Yeah. So the what do you think about chemtrails off airplanes? They're real, right?
I love them. I inhale as much as I can when I see them. I think it's perfectly fine. Yeah.
what was the submission process like for you in Mad Magazine?
I originally I lucked out into where I was always for years way too intimidated to even submit just blindly to them,
Yeah.
and so it wasn't until and I'm not even sure how it came across my work, but the art director that was working there when I started submitting was named Ryan Flanders, and he actually
Hmm.
approached me and said, "Hey, we like your stuff. We'd like for you to submit to us." And I was like, blown away that they would actually approach me and want to see my stuff, and see more stuff
Yeah.
from me. So, see, I just started submitting just directly to him. It took me maybe a dozen or so ideas before they hit on one. That in the very first cartoon I submitted, I think it was where I was able to make fun of Justin Bieber and hipsters at the same time. I can't try to remember what the gag was now.
It
But
was new
uh,
mustaches.
the Bieber, yeah, yeah, new yeah, trendy facial hair, trendy. Yeah, you got it right there.
Yeah.
Cool. You did more research than I. Awesome. Yeah, that was the very first issue I appeared in a Mad magazine. Yep.
Yeah, and for those who can't see, gosh, I wonder. Well, no, I can't show my screen because
Uh,
I'm a failure. Um, yeah, it's
no.
for those of you wondering, it's the Mad Magazine number 510,
Uh-huh.
which doesn't sound that long ago, but for context, Green Lantern is on the cover. That was Ryan
The
Reynolds'
Ryan
Green
Reynolds
Lantern.
Green Lantern movie. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 2012 or so. 2011, 2012, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2011, August 2011.
Okay.
That's the
Yeah.
cover
Man, that's
date.
crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was when I became a professional idiot instead of just being a regular idiot. Yeah.
Well, and that's you have been working. I think you have published work kind of farther back than anybody I've interviewed so far,
Oh,
and
okay.
so
Wow.
you have your work at Mad Magazine predated the reboot and then continued into that reboot. And so I'm
Yeah.
curious, like,
Yeah.
how did you feel about the changes that happened with that shift
Oh,
to a new
yeah.
number one?
Yeah. Well, I was like everybody, I was skeptical as to how that would work and what the magazine would look like. I know, after it being published in New York for decades, and then moving to LA. But honestly, I thought they did an amazing job with keeping with the Mad Magazine spirit and publishing, content that was right in line with how it used to be. And no, I thought it was really. I thought the reboot. I hardly hesitate to even call it really much of a reboot because it didn't feel drastically different. There were definite changes and
Yeah.
some new voices, but it still felt very Mad Magazine to me. And so in working with them over there was great. They were all real funny, talented people that had their pulse on the what was going on with current events and so yeah, the transition wasn't very drastic for me. I miss working with the old staff, of course, but I always got along great with everybody over there, and it was fairly easy for me anyway. Because I was only publishing sporadically. I wasn't a huge part of Mad Magazine, but even a minor idiot is is still a part of the
Yeah,
history. So
absolutely. Well, yeah, and
yeah.
yeah, I would not downplay your contributions to Mad Magazine at
Oh
all.
well, thank you. We're just
The
I appreciate it.
yeah, well, I mean, there's the shorts and briefs and Fundolini pages. For me, were like
Uh-huh.
two of my favorite recurring segments because I got
Oh, me
I got to
too.
be
Yeah.
exposed to so many new artists. It was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was very grateful that they were willing to reach out to a larger pool. For a long time they were a pretty closed shop. Of course, I mean, why wouldn't they be? They had probably the top cartoonists in the world working for
Yeah.
them. And then of course with the internet, it created you have a vast pool to choose from, and yeah, to be included among those people was still I still feel very proud about it.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just I think probably part of that magic that happened was having, like a bullpen of creators, like people who come into
Mm-hmm.
the office and are sitting around and
Oh, totally. Yeah.
drawing
Yeah. I
together.
wish that I could have been a part of that. Though it was vastly different when I became a contributor. That was, like, no, I've never even been to New York City. So more or less, but it seems like that would have just been most fun place on the planet to work. Like sitting around with Dick DiBartolo and everybody coming up with funny ideas and yeah, just shooting stuff back and forth and yeah, it just sounds like it's just a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mute my phone before this. Now it's.
That reminds me.
I gotta be one of the worst interviewers of all time at. I think I just with all the disasters with fun. This, I think I solidified it.
I feel like I can just be more relaxed. So this is far from a stuffy interview. Like of course I haven't really done those before, but no, you're good. All right, it's all good.
Well, thank you. Yeah, yeah, sorry about that. I totally lost my train of thought with that, but yeah, that idea of what were we talking about? The bullpen. Yeah, and it's funny now, like hearing people and their stories of contributing. It's so I scanned my artwork and then I sent an email and then I texted the guy and he got back to me.
yeah, they're really not all that interesting stories other than just like, yeah, I thought of a funny idea and I drew it and I emailed it and they put it in the magazine.
Yeah. Wait, I mean, did you receive much feedback or was it just sort of like, nah, this isn't what we're looking for? Or was it like, you're close, here's some.
Yeah, no, they were always pretty good with giving you reasons why, something wasn't working. And it was always very helpful. And they knew that helps, in your future submissions too. Yeah. I took their feedback and was like, okay, it always made sense. They were always correct. They had a real good eye and ear for what's funny, and that helped me immensely. Coming up with ideas for Matt and for other projects as well. When I was writing on SpongeBob, that it would that advice would be in my head, and so yeah, no, they were always really good with giving you good feedback and. Because they want the magazine to be as good as it can be. So, it was always much appreciated. They would take the time instead of just a flat out. Because most places will just say, no, pass, but they were good about letting you know why they were passing, which was rare and much welcomed, to someone that doesn't, where a lot of times we're kind of in the dark as to what you're wanting or, what do you want from me? Like I'm giving you what I think is funny. And they would, they were good about giving you those notes.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to like nurture, a pool of artists that you can turn to and keep accepting work from. It seems like a pretty critical aspect of the submission process is getting that feedback.
And I think they realized that. Yeah, for sure.
The you talked about like your work. You did work for Boom Studios. Wait, was the SpongeBob? Was that with Boom?
That was through United Plankton, which was actually Steve Hillenburg himself published it, and it wasn't even through Nickelodeon or anything.
Oh wow!
So it's through his company, and so I worked, and that was the SpongeBob comic was a very unique situation in that it had one editor, the amazing Chris Duffy, who worked on Nickelodeon magazine, and he worked on for DC for a while. He's an amazing editor, really knows funny stuff and really knows comic books. And so he would contact creators and have it all approved with Steve himself. And we just did it that way, and it was pretty unique. And there weren't a bunch of people dipping their toes in to say, there were no studio notes from Nickelodeon saying you can't do this or that with it. And so I felt that was another thing. I was very lucky to be a part of that unique comic.
Yeah, well, and that's fascinating too. That it's like so like all of the work that was published got the blessing of Steve Hillenburg. For those who don't know, the creator of SpongeBob and the whole Bikini Bottom world that we love. So I mean, that's amazing.
That was when because I didn't know that until working, doing stuff for a little bit, and I was like, oh, that's the actual process. That's cool. Knowing that, and Chris said that Steve would make nice comments about my work. He felt that I had a good grasp on the character, which is part of that thing where you're like, okay, you're giving me license to play with your toys. I'm going to do my best to have fun and not destroy them. To hear that he was, felt that I was doing that was felt pretty good, to say the least.
Yeah, well, and a character like that is, I would say, like it's I mean, he's up there with The Simpsons as far as like shaping children's sense of humor. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. And yeah, and SpongeBob, you can, there's tons of there's an underground comics vibe to it. There's again a Fleischer cartoon thing going, but all on its own, mixing its own unique brine to to use a yeah, that makes it unique what it is. And yeah, it's been very influential to still to this day.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
yeah.
I remember there being like some issues where like Steve left, and there was kind of a change in direction with that cartoon, and he eventually came back to like sort of write the
Mm-hmm.
course.
Mm-hmm.
So like to me, I mean, like that's very impressive though, to have like his blessing of like, yeah, man, you got it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
understand what
yeah.
I'm trying to do with this character.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, yeah, that was and that's been the unique in my experience with comics. Because doing stuff for um, working with Bongo on a few Simpsons comics I wrote, that was I don't know if Matt Groening, ever looked at anything that I did, which understandably he has an empire to
yeah,
run, but yeah, no, it was a good experience, but yeah, I didn't have like the actual blessing of the actual creator of the property, so it was cool.
yeah. The
Yeah,
one Bongo, there's like another connection to Mad Magazine. Bill Morrison, he was the head of Bongo.
right.
Was he the when you were doing work there? Was he still at Bongo?
No, he had
Okay.
left, and I just worked directly with Nathan Kane, who was the editor. It was really great, and up until Bongo ended, I can't a few years ago
Yeah.
now. I can't remember what all why, but yeah, that was another pretty closed group of people. Where I think with Simpsons, I think they trusted 20th Century Fox, I guess, was just like, y'all have been publishing Simpsons comics for years now, and I don't remember getting tons of notes on the stuff that I did for them. So that was cool. And that was another thing that was intimidating to tackle. Like Simpsons was influential and iconic, and last thing I wanted to do was make something that was not in line with the humor. Or, didn't want to totally miss the mark, and
Yeah.
I felt like I was able to do my own kind of thing with it while keeping in with the same vibe.
Yeah.
So yeah,
The I wanted to bring up something of your own creation. I believe it's your creation. I know that Kit had done some writing on it, and that's your work for. I think it was mostly in shorts and briefs, but Patience Man.
Patience Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was our stupid superhero comic where his only power is just the ability of being have the ability to just be incredibly patient, and that is of course to the detriment of whatever he's trying to accomplish. And we took that as our way to spy kind of setup where it's just the same setup each time. It's like it takes him forever to save whoever he's trying to save, and then how can we just
Yeah.
keep doing that over and over? And it got to be incredibly difficult. Kit was good with coming up with ideas for it. But yeah, that was just a funny thing that I wish I could have done more, but it was hard for me to come up with ideas after a while. It was just this kind of stupid basic setup. But because it was a way to lampoon superheroes, which I kind of have a slight contempt for. I guess just they're been in our face for so many years now.
Yeah.
So of course I'm not the first one to do a superhero spoof, but it's funny to play in that world and do something just really dumb and hopefully funny.
Yeah. Well, and I like the like what you were saying about like wanting to create something that had um like some permanence to it, like Spy versus Spy, where it's like the same
Yeah,
type of concept, right? Like they're always going after
yeah,
each other, whereas this guy
yeah.
is always. I mean, my favorite one is I think it is one of the darker ones. I have it pulled up on the
Oh
screen.
yeah.
It's where
The darker the better. I always
yeah,
felt.
a poor kitty gets locked in a safe, and Patience Man,
Yeah,
he's testing out all those
just
combinations.
every single combination you could think of to do to like. Yeah, and to me the humor, I always love dark humor, and the like the sicker the better. Without punching down, I'm not making fun of dead animals.
Yeah,
It's not funny in and of itself. But yeah, that was another excuse to indulge in some dark. There's one where there's a guy that's I think, out in the woods, freezing to death. And so Patience Man's solution is to just hook up a bunch of extension cords to a cabin that's miles away and warm him up with a hairdryer. And of course he's frozen to death by the time he gets to him. So
Yeah.
and yeah, and that was just tricky to, and I working on Patience Man made me even more appreciative of Spy versus Spy, how it's been going on for decades, and it's the same. It's two characters fighting each other in complex ways, and that it's so simple, but and that's what makes it. It's amazing that they're able to continue it so long with coming up with continuously new ideas to how they do that, and yeah, it was tough, but ultimately, I can now say I've technically created a DC comic superhero. Like we're waiting to see if he can make it into the Justice League or something.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, what you were saying about punching down, like, the humor is not that the cat died or the man died.
Right.
It's that Patience Man's well, no, he's not incompetent. He is solving the problem.
He's so oblivious to that this is the worst way to go about solving this problem. Is like, yeah, wow, to me that's just funny. Or someone that's so arrogant and like set in his ways. They're like, no, this is the only way we're able to solve this problem. So
yeah,
I'll eventually solve it. But it may not have the outcome that's desired. Yeah, it's that's a way of, I guess, poking fun at people that are hard-headed or won't listen to reason, or authority figures that think they have all the right answers when they never do.
Yeah. That's I'm one of those authority figures for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, good. No, that's
yeah. There's like 30 kids who recently
enough to know that you're not going to be but they would be lampooned and everything.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say there's all of the kids that have been in my class. They're probably like, yeah, overconfident people think they know. He's got all the answers.
So you have to put on a specific type of hat to be a teacher. Really, a lot of that is probably necessary. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does help also that I do know pretty much everything. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And as long as they know that, I mean. Like, sit down and shut up. Yeah.
I might edit this part out. I don't know if any of my students have found my channel.
Yeah. No, understandable.
Yeah. So, one thing that I like to ask every single time is if you had decision-making powers at Mad Magazine, what would you do?
What do I have done? Oh man, see, and this answer will probably be why I was never put in charge of decisions in Mad Magazine. But I'm just going to go about this answer by visualizing what I would like to have seen in Mad Magazine, and I would have just put a bunch of. I would have hired Tom Bunk to draw every disgusting idea that came my way. No, I don't know. That's a tough question. Yeah, I just, I can only go about it, but like what I would have seen more of in Mad. And of course, what was great about Mad was that it had a diverse selection of articles and features and artists, and yeah, I always tended to go towards what was most visually funny. So Tom Bunk, or I would have reprinted old Basil Wolverton cartoons. Yeah, had an all Basil Wolverton issue. Again, I wouldn't have lasted 4 seconds as any sort of decision maker at DC Comics or the Mad. But yeah, no, I would. If there was a Mad magazine where I had overseen, you would have expected nothing but just gross visual artwork from all my favorite gross artists, basically.
Nice. No, I like it. Well, and Basil Wolverton, I learned he was sort of like one of the few people back in the day that was working remotely. Because I think he was up in...
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he was in the Pacific Northwest, and so he would just draw these amazing people, these amazing caricatures, and send them right in. Now that you bring it up, some of your characters, I get a distinct Basil Wolverton vibe.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. And I can't believe I haven't brought him up till now, but yeah, he was a giant. When I first saw that, that Mad cover that's a parody of a Life magazine cover with what the Lena hyena character, maybe.
Yeah.
It's just that real grotesque, ugly woman. That was another sledgehammer to the face moment where I saw that. It was like, oh my god, that's like that to me is more beautiful than the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Like that artwork. That's just it's funny and it's amazingly drawn and it's just a work of true art to me. And yeah, it's amazingly influential.
Yeah, I've been buying up old Plop comics, and
Oh yeah,
he did the
I'd love to
covers
see
for
some more of
most of
those.
them, and
Yeah.
they're
Has there
perfect.
been a collection of those published anywhere? I don't know if there has been. I would love to see a giant, like just hardbound book of all the all that stuff.
Yeah, well, and I had never read it up until I just started buying them recently, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff in there that I didn't totally appreciate, or I wish of course I did, I just started reading them, but I wish I would have read like way earlier, because like Sergio
Oh yeah.
Aragones was doing work in it. Um,
Oh really?
yeah,
Oh man.
and it's a lot of really great
Yeah.
artists, and
I need to look at that. I haven't seen any of those. I've heard of it and seen covers, but yeah, I'd love to look through an issue of that. Yeah, I have to hit up eBay or something, see where
yeah,
get a hold of some of those. Yeah.
the quality of the kind of spoofs or whatever, it's hit or miss. Some of it's like
Oh
just
sure.
it's real garbage, but they also
Oh, like
do some of those like
yeah.
classic. You remember like when Mad was a comic, those kind of short stories that they were doing. They
Yeah.
do things
Yeah.
closer to that, and it's those are
Oh
really
okay.
really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of the old, like the Mad clones, and there's a great book that came out a year or so ago called, I think it's called like Behaving Madly or something like that. And it's just a collection of just Mad Magazine ripoff magazines,
Yeah,
material from that, and and it speaks to how much of an impact Mad had in the day. It was like, lamp, it was, ripped off by tons of different people. Even a lot of the Mad contributors contributed to that stuff because hey, a gig is a gig.
yeah.
Anyone that'll pay us to draw silly drawings will do. And I would have, if there were Mad clones now, I would draw for them, like if
Yeah.
they asked me to. But
There,
yeah, I know that's.
I think there kind of are. There's one I just learned about, which is like Freaky magazine.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
I haven't gotten my hands on a copy of it yet, but they have like a Patreon, and it's like $7 an issue or something.
Oh, okay, yeah. I need to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanna get one and kind of go through it on my channel, but
Yeah.
this
Like,
is a new question. I haven't asked anybody. I just came up with it.
oh, okay.
What are you reading right now? Like what cartoonists or creators are you reading and enjoying?
Oh man, right now I honestly like I'm weird in that I haven't I sometimes take breaks from like looking at old comics and stuff, and so I don't want to like get too influenced and be derivative of people. So like
Yeah.
right now I've kind of taken a break from looking at reading other people's stuff. Oh, this is a really boring answer, but hey, yeah, so that I can work. I just draw my sketchbook kind of fresh, and then um, yeah, right now I've just been reading to take my mind off of the pandemic. I've just been reading just like horror novels that I come across,
Yeah.
on my Kindle, So, yeah, just try to as a form of escapism.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And no,
yeah,
that's not a boring answer. Because and like that's just another thing as somebody who's not a creator, I don't totally consider is like wanting to avoid influence, even like accidentally. It's
yeah, and it's not something I do, a lot. Like I'll go back and again, I try to, look at, I try to discover new artists, in ways that, and hopefully I'll see things that can influence me, to keep developing my style because I don't want it to become stagnant.
yeah,
But you still want it to be recognizable as you, and so yeah. I was just looking the other day, and something that I've noticed has been influencing my style lately is I got a hold of that giant Gary Panter box set from a few years ago. The
not
um,
familiar.
Gary Panter, yeah, he was a um, under like punk rock cartoonist basically. He did Jimbo, the comic Jimbo for Raw magazine.
All right.
but yeah, his stuff in like, um, his art is amazing because it's very it looks almost crude, but it's not. It's real rough. Rough is a better way to describe it than crude.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's cartoony, but it has this raw edginess to it, and it's really and it kind of influenced me to steer away from doing stuff that's too cutesy, and I don't know. It's just one of the things that has been influencing me lately.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that out. And like part of that question, it's a selfish question because it's like, I love discovering new artists and seeing like different work. So I wrote that name down. I'm gonna check him out.
Okay. Yeah.
I am reaching the end of this interview, and I do want to ask if people want to support you and your work, what can they do? Where can they go?
Yeah, well, go to my website is DeGrandland.com.
Yeah.
And you can find all my social media links there, and there's a lot of my artwork on there also, and yeah, and I always am up for doing commissions. If people want to commission me to draw their Aunt Gladys smacking a platypus with a board or something, I get weird requests. So yeah. Anybody wants an original doodle from me, email me. I always love to do that. And but yeah, no, just buy. Subscribe to Mad Magazine. They're still publishing stuff. It's because if enough subscribers, hopefully they'll get more interest in submitting, creating new content again. They're trying to stuff with everything going on. It's probably not the biggest concern in the world, but if you want funny content to make quarantine life better, you could do worse than Mad Magazine. So
that is definitely true.
Yeah.
And I'll put all that stuff like your email. Well, maybe I won't put your email in the description, but I'll put your website and social media and everything.
Awesome.
So people could get a hold of you if they want to do a commission.
Yeah.
So
and
thank you so much.
I'd like to plug one thing coming out in October. I wrote a kid's book, I illustrated a kid's book that my friend Kit Lively wrote for Workman Publishing. It's called Twisted Tongues, and it's like real disturbing, weird, gross tongue twisters for kids. And there's comic strips in there about two boogers, and thrown in there to make it fun too. Chris Duffy, again, who edited SpongeBob, was the editor on this book also. So look for that in October. We're real excited about that. And
awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely bring attention to that too.
Cool.
Yeah, maybe I can get Kit Lively on here also.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. No, I'll reach out to him, let him know. He's always fun to talk to. He'd be a great interview subject.
Cool.
Yeah. Man, thank you so much, man. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. David, thank you. I also really appreciate it. I think these are like the interviews are my most popular videos.
Cool. Great.
So
hopefully I don't start a trend of like making that not true with this one.
It just plummets after David. It just
why would you watch it?
It went up in flames.
Yeah. I wouldn't blame anybody, but no, this is a lot of fun, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for all the kind words and all the plugs. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I think it's
absolutely,
it was a great conversation to have. So, with that, toodaloo.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.